Hey everyone and welcome back. Now in the earlier video we were discussing the basics about infrastructure as a code, and we also had a high level overview demo on how you can create infrastructure in AWS through CloudFormation. So continuing our journey, in today's video we will be writing our first CloudFormation template so that we can have a better grasp related to how CloudFormation really works. So let's begin. So in today's lecture, our main aim is to implement our first AWS resource with the help of CloudFormation. So the resource that we will be implementing in today's video will be S3 bucket. Now, whenever you are writing a CloudFormation template, there are two things that you need to remember is that way earlier, around a year back, AWS used to only allow JSON-based CloudFormation template. However, writing JSON template is quite tedious, and this is the reason why AWS have also added a support for YAML, which is much more effective and much more faster way of writing the CloudFormation templates. So we will be learning about JSON based templating, because once you understand how JSON based templating works, YAML is something which will become very simple. So let's begin, and we will write our first S3 bucket with the help of JSON based CloudFormation template. So I'll go to my desktop and I'll create a new text document and I'll name it as S3. So since we are writing a JSON based CloudFormation template, we have to conform with the JSON standards. So we'll begin our template with the opening bracket, and within this I'll define our first resource column, and I'll open the resource column, and within the resources column we have to specify the name of the resource. So this is our reference. So this name is for our reference. So let's understand this in a much more better way. So resources, now in AWS there are a lot of resources. It can be EC2, S3, ELB, Kinesis, SQS, and a lot. So this is the first block. So this is the resources block. Now within the resources block we define a name so that we can understand. So this is the name for our understanding, and now within this we define the resources column. So I'll say type. Now within this you have to define the type of resource. Now let me show you an example. So CloudFormation, within the CloudFormation documentation, AWS has given a lot of AWS resource type references, and you have to stick with these standards. So let's assume you want to create a DynamoDB table. So you have to use this specific type within your CloudFormation template. Now, since we are going to create a S3 resource type, I'll do a Control F and I'll search for S3. So you see there are two types which are available. One is S3 bucket and second is S3 bucket policy. So I will be using the S3 bucket. So within the type column, I'll specify the type of AWS, S3 and bucket. So this is one thing that you have to be very careful about. You cannot really modify this value. You have to make it from the documentation that you get it from. Now I'll close the curly braces. So this is the curly braces that I am closing. Now there is one more curly braces for the resources column that I will close, and the last curly braces is the main JSON document brace that I'll close, and I'll click on save. Now since this is a JSON document, one thing that you have to make sure is a compliant one. So you have a very nice website called as JSON lint, and what you can do is you can specify the JSON document here and you verify if your JSON document is perfect. So currently it says it is a valid JSON document which is perfect. Now what we will do is we'll go to the CloudFormation. So this is the CloudFormation service, and we'll click on create a new stack. Now within this there are various options. We'll select upload a template to S3. I'll click on browse and I'll select our S3 template. Now click on next. Alright, so now it has asked us for a stack name. So let me give a stack name as pack demo, and I'll click on next. So these are the options that you can select. We will ignore this for now and we'll click on next, and finally we'll click on create. So now what CloudFormation will do is CloudFormation will basically read from the template. So if you'll see over here, this is the template that we had written. You can see that from the template box, and it will go ahead and it will create the resources which are defined in the template. So let's just wait for a minute for the resources to get created. Perfect. So if you'll see, the resource status is create complete. So what this has basically done is that it has created the resource which were defined within the template. So let's go to S3. I'll go to S3. Now one thing to remember over here is that here we have just given the type AWS S3 bucket. We have not really defined a S3 bucket name. So in this case, what CloudFormation will do is CloudFormation has the capability to create a random bucket name. So now if we go to the S3 bucket, we'll sort by date created. And you see there is a bucket name called as packed demo -my S3, and there is the random value over here. So this is the bucket that CloudFormation has created for us. Now again, we can define bucket names over here, and we can define a lot of properties associated with the S3 bucket. Now typically if you create a S3 bucket, let me give you an example. Let me put a random value over here. Now generally if you create a S3 bucket, there are a lot of options related to versioning, tags, you have server access logging, and lot of other things. So these are the options that we have still not defined within the S3 bucket. We have just created a simple S3 bucket. So this was the aim of our lecture. So I hope you understood the basic on how we can define our first CloudFormation template and what the resource is, what my S3 is, and what the type column is all about. In the next lecture, what we'll do is we will go into much more depth and we will understand on how we can work with the resource based properties. We look into the update as well as the delete stack. So this will be the next implementation of the CloudFormation lecture, where we'll go ahead and understand more about the CloudFormation templates. So this is it about today's video. I hope this has been informative for you, and I look forward to see you in the next video.